Okay, so in this lesson, we will go through and build our base shader that we are going to use as a template for the rest of our scene. I kind of deleted everything and added in a new toon shader. You could do that by just typing in toon and dragging that out. And what I'm going to do is adjust some of these settings. So in the edge dropdown, let's take our edge detection angle threshold down to about 15 or so. Let's turn on our silhouette. And then let's drag our base weight down to 0 because we're not actually going to use this for our shadows and stuff. We're going to drive everything through our emissions tab here. And we'll pull all our colors, all our shadows and stuff through this tab, and it'll give us a lot more customizability in our shader here. So what we want to do is start to add some nodes that'll allow us to drive our shadows, our colors, and we'll start to add a little bit of wear and tear and start to get some tech details on our objects here. So first, let's establish some of the shadows and colors in our scene. So to do that, let's grab a simple ramp node. And I like to use these as my color swatches just because they have a little bit more customizability if I want to further improve this shader by inputting something into these guys, and I'll have the ability to just quickly add more knots in here and adjusting some of the colors and whatever is influencing those. So now that I have this guy, let's just quickly plug it in here, emission color. And for this, I'm just going to have this simple color, and then I'm going to start multiplying my base color with utility nodes. So I'm just going to give this a nice red here, just so it's visible for you guys. And let's start to build out our shadows. So I'm just going to start typing in utility, and we can find this guy here. Let's drag and drop him out into our node space there. And so one thing we can actually do in this editor is drag this output into this Arnold Beauty input here on the right. And when we do that, we sort of isolate what these nodes do or anything that's coming down the chain into it. And so we can sort of isolate and see what different nodes are doing to our material. So let's go into here. Let's change the shade mode down to Lambert. And so we're kind of back to getting this Lambert look to our scene. And what we can do with this utility node now is actually use it as a mask to start to drive where we want our edge detection lines to just happen and sort of be placed around our stuff in our scene. So I want to actually adjust this guy to be a little bit more closer to the white to black transition. So let's add in a ramp node there. And let's plug our ramp node into our Arnold Beauty output. And then let's just start sliding this guy back until we're getting a little bit closer to that white transition there. For this shader, I'm actually not going to use a cell shaded look. I want to have a nice transition of the shadows around my round objects and then keep my cast shadows as nice crisp edges. So with this guy, what we can do now is use this and multiply it on top of our colored node and use our blacks as sort of a multiply on top of our color. So it kind of makes it simpler, so we're only having to adjust one color and it'll adjust our shadows for us automatically, just because it's being multiplied on by the darker masking from this guy. So let's take out another ramp node because I actually want to adjust it away from being full black. Let's try like a 65% right now. And then let's go into our search and search for a multiply node, and let's drag and drop that out into here. Let's take our new adjusted ramp node here and plug it into our multiply input 1. And let's plug our sort of base color node into input 2. And we can see what this is doing. Let's drag it into our Arnold Beauty. And so you can see now we're getting the nice, not full black shadows on our objects. We're getting a little bit of a blend there. So we can go into this ramp and sort of adjust how much shadow we want to have on our objects here. And if we also want, we can start to add a little bit of color. Say we want our shadows to be a little bit more cool. We can sort of go ahead and do that as well. For my scene, I'm just going to keep it as a nice, darker, just a multiplied version of my red. So let's go ahead and plug that into our toon shader again. That's sort of like the result we're getting now. So we're kind of back to what the base shader was able to do for us, but with further customizability. Because now what we're actually going to do is use this utility node to start to drive some outlines around our shadows here. So to do that, let's actually grab another ramp node. And let's plug our adjusted Lambert here into our ramp node there. And you can see sort of how I'm like adding things into the chain that helps make it simpler once it's set up. So we'll sort of like adjust these once and then we can kind of forget about them. And it's better than having like 3 ramps coming off the utility node, because if we do have to go back and adjust something because it's not working somewhere, we're not having to adjust like 4 or 5 things. We could adjust the one and we're good to go. So let's actually plug this into our main edge detection, and mask color. So this is what makes Arnold such a powerful toon shader system, as we can sort of drive where we want our toon lines to show up in our scene. So you can see we're already starting to get some toon lines around the silhouette of our shadows there, but we're getting sort of a little bit of a gross shadow in the gradient of that fall off there. So what I want to do with this node here is let's just bring up those blacks. And I might be like adjusting our scene a little bit just to get rid of those sort of like awkward feeling guys there. Something like that should work for now. It also might be because we are at a smaller scale. But you can see now we're getting still that nice gradient, and then we're getting the crisp toon lines around our shadows there. So let's go into this node and let's start to adjust it so we're getting the nice sort of full color range back into our scene there. All right, so we kind of have like a quick base setup for the lighting and shadows. And you can kind of like tweak this until you can get into a nice spot where you have a good blend of the nice crisp lines and you don't have any of that dirty edges. I'm actually going to like increase this to 200%. So we're at 2000, 2000. That's a little bit closer to what my end render size will be. And you can actually see that it cleaned up a lot of the issues we were having there. So I'm actually going to go into this top guy and just tweak it a bit until I can find a good spot. This one seems to be a problem area, so I'm just going to isolate that. That should be pretty good.